totally feral. There was no, like, and he was an adult, so there was no, like, I hope you get along in my house, because it just wasn't going to happen. So sometimes we do that, but most of the time we can find homes for him, or at least like a sanctuary that would help us out.
So when you're living your daily life, or when you're on tour and you're kind of just in your schedule and in your groove, do you realize the impact that you have on your fans or even your community through your non-metal ventures like the Sanctuary?
Yeah, definitely. I think fans show a side of them that they probably don't ever show another band when they start talking about their pets. That's what's cool, is you get these dudes coming up and wanting an autograph, leather jackets and beards, and they start talking about their cat, and it's just awesome. My little poopy doopy, and it's so good. It's so awesome. Even band members, like, now, because I've been doing this for so long, and you would not believe some of the band members when they start talking about their pets, how they break down and just start talking that kitty cat talk. It's great.
Do you see that book? I can't remember.
Metal Cat.
Yeah.
Metal Guy. Cat. I think I'm in
Something.
it. I haven't seen a copy, but I think they did an interview with me for that.
It's the best idea ever.
It's
for
so
the
awesome.
exact same reason you just mentioned.
Absolutely. Randy from Lamb of God, his cat's name's Salad, and he loves her. And Steve, drummer for Deicide, same thing, man. Me and him, we get together and he'll just start talking about his cats. He's like, I love that little shit.
I have a love-hate relationship with the kitten that I just got. It's like they get into everything. You have little holes in everything. Litter is everywhere. But they're just so goddamn cute.
Yeah.
He didn't have a name for almost a week because I just couldn't decide. I was like, I'm going to love you forever and you're going to have a good name.
That's the way to do it. Some of my cats, it takes a while to figure out a name, because you can't just name him George if he's not a George,
Or Snowflake.
Right.
Oh, you're white.
Yeah, Fluffy. Yeah.
Whitey. Yeah. So then, back to metal.
Back to the band.
I suppose. Yeah. It's enough about cats. Do you hear your influence in newer bands that come out? Do you hear it and recognize it, and what does it mean to you to hear that?
I think it's cool. I mean, I definitely hear bands that are trying it. It's odd that I haven't. I mean, maybe they're out there, but I haven't heard like young bands, like 18-year-old dudes or 20-year-old dudes going for it and trying to sound like Obituary. It's dudes our age almost that are like so into it. They're making like Obituary cover band, and it's just weird. But I don't know. I haven't heard very many young bands that are trying to go with that feel. I think they're all leaning towards as technical as they can be and how fast their feet can go, and that's as far from Obituary as you get. But it's cool. There's definitely an Obituary influence just throughout the whole metal world, I think, with fans just loving it and bands trying to maybe go with that kind of groove, whether it's in their cards or not. And it's, what am I going to say besides I think it's pretty cool that we made a little bit of a mark on this music world.
On this earth.
Yeah.
So with things going more technical in modern metal, do you think that there's going to be a loss of touch on grassroots and where it came from?
I don't know. I mean, definitely the world of music is changing quickly, because we all know it started with Black Sabbath and heavy shit, but it was Venom and stuff, and nowadays it's such crazy beats per second bass drums and stuff that I don't know how much more extreme it can get. I'm almost thinking it's probably going to have to do a U-turn and go back to the basics, and someone's going to come out sounding like Celtic Frost, and we're all going to be like, yeah, I mean, there's a band that we're getting ready to take on the road with us in Europe from Germany that they opened for us 2.5 years ago, and my jaw hit the ground, because it's everything I liked when I was young, which is like Slayer meets old Sepultura meets old Anthrax, SOD sounding, but then they sound a little bit like, when they want to, of course, Metallica, and it's all like thrash. It's like Bay Area thrash, but they're 20-year-old Germans. A band called Dust Bolt, and I heard the new album, and it's like my favorite album on the planet right now. So instead of them trying to do crazy technical, they're going back and they're sounding like old albums that I loved, and so maybe that's the generation swing that I hope happens. Hopefully there's, because they're like Slayer and Sepultura, which was my two favorite bands when I was growing up.
Yeah, with technicality, you have to think that I think it may progress to being over technical.
Yeah.
And what I see is that trend, there's no emotion. And if there is some, then there's no weight to it.
Right.
It's not very powerful.
Right.
And that's the one thing that I think attracts a lot of fans to death metal is you have that weight, you have that heaviness,
Yeah.
and you don't have a compromise.
Yeah.
You're not like, oh, I'm just kind of into this
Right.
for a summer.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, I guess you have to go through this period that we're going through with bands that don't have necessarily that warm blood flow through their music right now, because it is just pure 55 different rhythms in one song, and when the song's done, you can't hum a damn thing. I can't remember 1 second of that song. I guess you kind of have to go through this period for someone to finally pop out, you know, like Dust Bowl did for me. Someone has meaning to songs, and it makes you want to put your hands in the air, and you want to listen to the album the minute it's finished. You want to listen to it again because it's so good. I don't know, maybe this is the transition of that full circle, or maybe it is going to go back and it's going to be bands that are sounding closer to the old school stuff, but we got to weed through all these technical bands.
I think also the perception now, at least, is that metal is for the kids. Like, we have to make metal that will make that 15-year-old go out and buy it. And I don't necessarily think that's fair or true. I think
it's dangerous if that's the mindset of people, because for God's sakes, let that 15-year-old find Beneath the Remains and let them go, okay, my God, now I see what my dad was freaking out on as a teenager, and now I see what metal used to be compared to a 15-year-old right now that only heard like Psychroptic and these dudes, the Rivers guys. They're just unbelievable. They're playing shit that I couldn't, even if I practiced 20 hours a day, I wouldn't even be able to do it. But there's no true heartbeat for me, and maybe I think a 15-year-old that first hears that, then they hear Obituary and like, that's old man music. It's boring, and I like talking metal and technical, and I don't know. I think they get spoiled a little bit if they haven't dove into a Sepultura or a Cannibal or something beforehand.
Yeah, and I think that's metal is definitely not an old man's or a man's game anymore. I think pretty much anything goes, and that's why it's hard to see it fall in such a tight funnel.
Yeah.
And not go where we all know it can, or where not necessarily where it has been, but at least have that heartbeat and reminiscence.
I mean, the good thing is it's a big old planet with a lot of people with 2 ears on their head, so their style of music is up to them, and if they like 1,000-mile-an-hour beats, I'm good. I'm actually glad that there's bands catering to that, because I can't, and